Do the desires of your heart, do they pull on you? Do they tug on you? Do they pull you through your life, leading you to your fullest and greatest potential? Or do you feel overwhelmed by the desires of your heart? Do they seem to be stressful, and are they leading you to places of feeling like, oh, like that you're unsuccessful or that you're a failure because you're not living in alignment with your heart's desire? How do you determine between what's just like a quick little desire, like, ooh, I want to eat that one thing, a quick little minor desire of your, lack of your better word, of your flesh, versus a desire of your soul? My name is Maria Chaudhry. I'm a licensed midwife and an herbalist, and I'm the creator of Birth Song Botanicals, and I'm making this video today as to be honest and have an expression of my vulnerability. This is a video that's in a series that's all about stress relief and anxiety. And for many of us, the desires of our hearts lead us to wonderful, beautiful, self-actualizing, full potential, pleasurable places. And then sometimes our desires become conflicts and we struggle with our desires, and they might lead us to temptation and to places that might not necessarily be very wholesome or uplifting, and it almost seems like it's not taking you where you need to go because you're succumbing to every little whim. The desire to even have a desire, or rather the desire to be free from all desires, that's partially where I struggle. In one sense, I want to be completely free of any attachment and of any desire, and I want to not get swept away by powerful emotions, like extreme emotions, and I want to be closer to my center. And at the same time, I find myself here, right here with all of you. I find myself in a place where I admit I desire things and I want them to come into my life and be there, and I sometimes become a little impatient and I strive for it, and then I walk away and I have to struggle. That's why I'm doing this video, to expose and really to look at and dive deeper into the struggle of desire. Because as a younger person, I heard of desire as, like I said before, as a temptation, almost, lack of a better word, a sin, right? It's dirty, lust. Whereas now, as a person that's walking this new path of wisdom and self-actualization, I understand desire to be the very thing that pulls you to your fullest potential. This desire that pulls you to your soul potential, that's actually really special. There's this thing, it's called your entelechy. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I am going to. The entelechy is this little piece inside of you that unleashes your fullest potential. For example, right here. This is a hawthorn berry. You can't see it, it's tiny, right? Inside this berry holds all the potential for this berry to grow into a shrub, into the bush, and to produce multiple berries. Like, within it contains all the potential for it to become its fullest, most expressive self. And then, from that berry, it can make more berries and make more berries and make more berries, right? It's your desire to elicit that, to connect with that. Desire helps you connect with and understand your entelechy and to follow it and to go with your entelechy. It doesn't necessarily have to be temptation. I'm going to have a sip here. So one of the reasons that I see people have all these desires, and I know even though I'm talking about them, I'm really also talking about myself, but I'm just using these metaphors that maybe you can understand. As a midwife, I would sit with women, and this was a really common story that I would hear. And this is where how desire can create stress, right? Here's a perfectly healthy woman, she's got a good life, her pregnancy is going perfectly, and then when you talk to her, she's really so cannot wait for this baby to be here, to the point where the conversation is all wrapped around, I just can't wait for this baby to be here. I want this baby to be here. I mean, if I could just have this baby here right now, it would all be fine. And when you listen to her and you validate, and then when it's your turn to talk, you gently remind her that, oh, look, a few things. You remind her of a few things. One, that you have your baby. Your baby is here with you inside your body. Your baby is actually, you and your baby are closer to each other now than you'll ever be for the rest of your life. Like, you and your baby are more one being now than you'll be once the baby's born. So you're actually closer to it. You actually have the very thing you desire. And when we're sitting in the room, I remind them, look, there are 3 of us in this room. There's me and you and the baby, right? We're all here. So it's the reminder that we do have what we long for. Another thing is that illustrates the season for things. We can have everything we want. We just can't have it all at once, or nor would we ever want to. So the season, if this woman were to actually give birth right now at 32 weeks, I can make up any week, 32 weeks pregnancy, she really wouldn't have what she desires. Yes, the baby would be born, but the baby would be in the NICU. The baby would be on a respirator. The baby could be really compromised once they get home. They would have weeks and weeks of stress. That's really not what she's asking for. So what she's asking when she's saying, I want the baby to be here now, that those words are really not in alignment with what she's asking for. And it's not the right season. So that's one way how our desires for things can become stressful, and they also can become inaccurate. And fortunately, a lot of times those desires, if you were to try to cultivate a manifestation practice, then that desire wouldn't manifest itself right then, because it's not going to work. It's not rooted, it's not in alignment. She already has what she needs, and it's not the right season. Another reason that stress, so I want to ask you, before I move on, I want to ask you, when you think about it, because I think about this, okay, what is it that you desire? Why? Why do you desire that? So is it that you desire a new career? Do you desire more money? Do you desire a fitter, healthier, more beautiful body? Do you desire health? Do you desire a new relationship? Do you desire a lover? What is it that you desire? And then just take a look around in your life and look within and see, like, in what ways do you already have that in your life? For example, like if you're wanting this new relationship or this new person in your life, what ways do you already have healthy relationships with other people? In what ways? Also, you have to remember, and when you think about desire, desire is not just right here and now. It expands space and time. So you may not have what you want right here in this moment, but if you just look a little bit bigger, you have that very thing. It's just not right here, right now. So I'm encouraging you to think like that, right? To see and acknowledge what you already have. And the other desire is that you get, this is the other one, is that we become so fixated on a specific result. I want this job. I want this specific person. This is the specific person, me and you, I want you. I want to look like this. I want to weigh this weight. Whatever, so specific. Right? And that we get so fixated on this one thing that we shut ourselves down and we forget that we're really trying to open ourselves up to pure potentiality and to potential and for beautiful things to happen into our life. And then we become so fixated on one thing that we're closed, and we oftentimes miss something. And also, here's a silly story. This is really kind of a minor story, but I'm going to tell it anyways. I had this I have this calendar in my office, and it's down low, and there on the calendar is a friend of mine. It's a Tai Chi practitioner, right? His name is Javi. Maybe I'll link to him. Hey, Javi, I'm talking about you. Javi is this Tai Chi practitioner, and he is really great. I mean, he's good. I wouldn't call him a master yet because he's too young, but he's a wonderful teacher. He was coming to Fayetteville, and I was like, oh, I want Javi to come to Fayetteville, I want Javi to come and see his calendar at my place. I didn't have a real reason for really wanting him to see the calendar, other than I was hanging out with other people and they were talking about manifesting things, and it was like just kind of a continuation of that conversation of like, oh, I wonder if I can manifest that he comes right here and sees this calendar. So lo and behold, the story happens. Javi comes to Fayetteville, does not come to my place, does not see the calendar. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not that good of a manifester. If I can't manifest something simple that would be very practical and realistic to happen, like why couldn't I bring a friend over to the house? Like that seems like something I could have pulled off. If I can't pull off something that's within reason, how am I going to pull off my bigger dreams? How am I going to pull off running my business successfully? How am I going to get Births on Botanicals on all the shelves and all over the nation? How am I going to pull off something big if I can't pull off something small, right? So I was actually a little worked up about it. Like, gosh, I couldn't do that. And so then I had to realize, oh, first of all, that desire is really out of alignment, because why do I care if Javi comes and looks at the calendar? Well, I don't care about that. What I really care is that I get to practice and learn Tai Chi from a gifted and skilled teacher. That's what I really care about. Not that they see the calendar, right? So I was felt like a failure because I didn't have the specific result. Then time passed, and a couple months later, I had another friend, Tai Chi friend of mine. I was like, hey, you should get a session with this Master Bing from Wudang Mountain. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't study from Wudang, and I don't know if I should do that. I don't know if I need to do it. I have time for that. Maybe. And then it worked out. Then it turned into, oh, I'll do it for Sequoia. Sequoia needs to be around Master Bing more than I need to be around Master Bing. Sure, we'll do a session. And we were going to meet at the park. And however it works out, the universe works out that somehow or another, we end up doing the session here at my house. And Master Bing comes in, and he just walks through. I show him the house, and he walks through. And on his own accord, without me trying to do anything, he stops in the very place that I wanted my friend to stop at, Javi. He stops there on his own and looks at that calendar and looks at the pose, and he says the name of the pose. And then we go outside and we practice Tai Chi. And we have a beautiful session from just an incredibly skilled Tai Chi master. That's just a minor example of how we get fixated on something that's not in alignment with what you want, so then you have to become more clear with what you want, and then let it be, and it'll work out on its own. That's just a minor example. So in what ways, when you're thinking about all your heart's desires and you have your little checklist, what ways are you becoming so fixated and so zoned in on one thing that you're closing yourself off? And in what ways are you desiring something that's not in alignment? You know, Ben Harper has this beautiful statement. He says, be sure that the fortune that you seek is the fortune that you need. And that's quotable. That's a beautiful statement. And so, what is another way? Oh, another way about how we can be really frustrated about manifesting our desires is kind of like the first story, is having realistic time frames. Because when you're a desire of your flesh, a desire of like, ooh, I want to lose 30 pounds in 3 months. I want to activate my full soul potential in 7 weeks. I want to, in 4 weeks, I want to have achieved and written my whole book, right? We have this unrealistic sense of time, and then we also think that we can complete something that's a process when it's real. It's not a complete thing. It's not this one finite thing. It's this whole process. So there's never a completion to it. I'm trying to say that when your soul is calling you, you're going to have to check perfection, and you're going to have to take imperfect action, and you're going to have to be in it for the long haul. So my generation is the last generation that was born before the internet. So the rest of you guys probably watching were born after the internet. So you want this thing called instant gratification. I desire it, and it should happen the exact way that I want it. If not, it doesn't work, and I'm mad, and I don't like it, right? So instant gratification. Some things take a long time, right? Here's an example. Another example in my life of a desire that I have that's bigger than me. So these desires, some of these are your heartfelt desires, they're bigger than me or bigger than you. Sometimes you desire a person. Let's go back to desiring a person. Sometimes you desire a person and you can see that person, but what you're really desiring is not necessarily that person. Yes, but what that person is that person is on the path to the other thing, the bigger thing. Your heart is pulling you, and that person is there, so you desire them and what's beyond. Does that make sense? So don't just get stuck on desiring that person. It's what that person, what's beyond that person. That's a long journey, right? It's not so instant. At the same time, before I start telling the story, I do want to say something about, I'm using these words, I'm really surprised I'm talking about this on camera, but about manifesting. Manifesting is, there is something to be said about creating space and stepping back, but not so much stepping back, but stepping within yourself and allowing, which is really different than just being patient and passive. Being patient and passive, no great leader was just patient and passive. They may have practiced, like a passive art, but the path of peace is not just like doing nothing. It's a very active practice to walk the path of peace. Any successful Olympian didn't just oh well, I was just running one day and I won a gold medal, or oh, I was just writing one day and then I wrote a book and won a Nobel Prize. It takes a lot of action, a lot of creativity, a lot of purposeful action. And so I do want to say that you don't want to push it and force it and pigeonhole yourself into something, but then at the same time it does require you to steadily move forward with it. It's really following that pool. Okay, so long story. Years ago, I lived in Hot Springs. I was in my 20s probably when this book came to me, probably in 21, probably. I don't exactly remember, but it was definitely in Hot Springs, and I was definitely in my 20s. And I remember it was in my identity. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Who am I? What's important, right? And I didn't have a lot of answers, but I knew I needed to figure it out. This book came to me at that time. And so I remember saying, and keeping this book, being whatever it is I want to do, I want to be like her one day. When I grow up, I want to be like her. Look at her. You see her? And now here I am, 25 years later, kind of living like her. Yeah, that didn't happen overnight. Here's another thing. In this book that I've carried around with me, there is this other picture. I moved to Fayetteville because of three things. There was a midwifery school, the Buffalo River, and Ozark Natural Foods. There was a health food store, and that's why I wanted to come here, right? I have been to the Buffalo River one time, and so in my 20s, I did come to the Buffalo River one time, and that kept me wanting to come here. It pulled me, the river called me here. Anyways. Years later, I was here, I was living in this house, I was setting up my apothecary, I was going through my books, and then thought I would open up this book and look at it. And in this book, it's not this woman on the cover, but it's a different woman. And if you lived here, you would know that this is a famous scene from the Buffalo River. So this book called me from 20 years ago to come to, I'm not saying this book called me, but I'm just trying to say, like, the pulling, the calling, the desire of your heart, those are important. They lead you to the right places. They lead you to the right places. That's what I wanted to say. And it takes a long time. I mean, it was 25 years. And now here I am. And also, you want to trust your heart because it leads you to the right places, and it leads us here, right now. And that means you're here. And that means I'm here. And we're here together. And that's really special. And I'm really glad you're here. And whatever you're working on, whatever your heart's pulling you to, go with it. Trust it. Allow it. Allow it to unfold. Trusting in the process is it's a cultivated skill. Because another reason why we don't manifest things, or we don't live our lives, or why our desires become so stressful, is because we resist. Here's another simple example of resistance. There's a million examples of resistance right now, but I'm going to just give this one. I think you could imagine it. There's a newborn baby, and they're trying to nurse, and the mom is trying to nurse her baby, and she's literally got the breast in the baby's mouth. They're in perfect position. Their bellies are touching. It's warm. Everybody's happy and healthy. And this baby, it can just not put its mouth on there and suck. It's like everything is lined up for this baby to have exactly what it wants, but it just can't get out of its own way, and it's pushing off, and it's just resisting the breast when it's the very thing that it wants and needs, and it's the very thing that everybody else in the room wants it to, like, get good at, because we're all stressed out now because the baby's resisting. And then eventually something happens, it shifts, and the baby starts to nurse, and there's an acceptance, and then the milk flows, and then the hormones change, and everybody calms down. But there's a moment of resistance. And so my question to you is, like, I asked you before, what is your heart's desire? And then I ask you now to look within and scan your body and feel, where do you resist? Why do you resist? How does your resistance show up? So why do you resist? I mean, do you resist because it's unknown? Do you resist your desire because you feel like it could never happen? It's just not practical? Do you resist it because of fear? Fear of, if I have my desire, I have affluence and wealth, and I have, all these things I'm taking from someone else. And my fear is that I'm going to hurt someone if I get what I want. Or if I'm successful, me and my friend, we both kind of want the same job, but there's only one job position open, and I want it, but if I get it, then she doesn't get it, so then I don't want it, because then I'm going to hurt her, and then I'm resisting for fear of hurting someone. Or I have this desire for this love, but then my current situation might not be, and so I don't want to hurt, but then I want to live, and then you're resisting for fear of hurting someone. Or you have a desire for being successful, and you might not feel worthy. Like, why would Birthsong Botanicals be on the shelf when there's all these other companies on the shelf, and why am I'm not worthy? Or scarcity. Well, I really want to live that dream, but I need this job right now, and if I have this job right now, I can pay my bills, and if I can't pay my bills, I can't really live my dream. And so it's scarcity, it's worry, it's fear. All those things create disease and disharmony and stress, and, like, I don't want to use the word panic, but maybe create a little bit of panic. And when you're in this shut down, either fear, panic situation, you definitely are not open, and you're not in a place of really receiving, because you're resisting. And that word right now, there's a lot of political stuff going on, and that's been a word that a lot of people have used, to rise up and resist, And from a Tai Chi perspective, I definitely don't want to resist, because resistance reveals your center, and it takes away it blocks you from the opportunity. For example, there's this beautiful practice called pushing hands, what you're doing is you're finding your center, and you hold your structure, and then your opponent tries to push you over. But the moment you resist and you become really firm and rigid in your resistance, you're so easy to push over. I mean, I can push a big man over as soon as he gets resistance. But I can have a little person that weighs a lot less than me, but is more skilled, but as soon as I push on them, they sort of disappear, or they allow me in. They allow that obstacle. They allow that really that obstacle and that problem. They allow that pressure. They allow that stress into their center, and then they just redirect it. They're not resisting. They're allowing and redirecting, and then they open up and they stay solid in their center the whole time, and none of it was rigid and none of it was tight. It's a really beautiful metaphor. And so the whole political thing about resistance, I wouldn't use that word. I would use the word persist. Persist, show up, don't resist, persist. And so when you have all these obstacles and all these fears or all these reasons you're saying no, then instead show up, fill yourself up bigger. Fill yourself up bigger instead of shrinking smaller and trying to disappear. So I would say persist, don't resist. And so a couple things. Those are my brief take-homes of why some of our anxieties some of our desires cause anxieties. So I encourage you right now to take a deep breath, have a sip of tea, connect with your heart, get honest with yourself. This video a week ago was a real vulnerable video for me to do because I was really caught up in a lot of this struggle of desire and manifestation and living my dream. But I've had a week to think about this and lean into this, and so I feel really grateful to have done this, because now I don't feel nearly as stressed out about it. I don't feel nearly as anxious. I feel rather I feel ready to rise up and persist and keep going and to follow my heart, because my heart has never led me astray. Just remember, it might not always be the right season. You might already have what you're looking for. It just might not appear in the form that you think. Your alignment might be an alignment that's coming more from your rational mind instead of from your heart and from your soul. And if it's from your rational mind, it's probably not going to really happen because it's not in your true alignment for your authenticity. And then another piece is being mindful of how we're resisting the very thing. We're calling something and pushing it away, calling it and pushing it away. So I say, follow your heart, open your heart, allow it, trust it, give it the time, yet stay with it, keep going. Check perfection, keep going. It's a process, it's a path, it's a journey. It's never perfect. It's never over, it's never done, it's never complete. Right? You just have to do it. And that requires a lot of courage, and it requires all of you to show up. So fill yourself up all the way. And thank you. I'm going to wrap this video up. I'm going to remind you a couple things. This video is a part of a series for stress and anxiety, and this series today we made 4 videos total. One that's an overview video, one that's all about cardio, tonic, and heart health and the importance of heart health, and one is a guided meditation to help you connect with your heart, to find your desires and follow your desires, and then also this video. I invite you to join us because each week we put out videos. We do Facebook Lives, and we also put them on YouTube and on SoundCloud and on our blog on birthsongbotanicals.com. And if you like this video, please comment and share and subscribe and all those things, because what all those things do, it says we're in conversation and it's not just me talking at you. I want us to be having a dialogue and a conversation together. It amplifies It enriches and heightens and amplifies all the work we're doing. Because if you're watching this video about heart's desire and manifestation, that means you're up to something. You're up to something big, and something's calling you and pulling you. And I know that to be true because I see it all around, and we're kind of in this hive mind, and we're all being called to be up-leveling and being called to our greatest potential. And so I know that you are too. And join us next time for more Apothecary Wisdom. And as always, I want you to drink deep, walk in beauty, and follow your heart.